Hi there, this is going to be a series of videos on how I became involved in the paranormal and in particular ghost hunting. It all started when I was 16 years old at the death of my grandmother. It was the closest person to me that I'd ever lost, and I was desperate to know what there was after death. Did life go on? Is this just the vessel that carries the soul around? And then when we leave it, this returns to the ground while the soul carries on. I remember afterwards seeking and studying several of the world's major religions. And I looked at them all, and it appeared to me personally that each one had a modicum of the truth, but not it all. And in many cases they added to the truth. And these additions to the truth were to enable them to control people, to terrify people into believing that there was a hell and that they would be tormented and burnt in flame and the worms would eat them forever and the devil would be waiting with his pitchfork, just creating mass fear. Personally, I do not believe in that at all. As the years went by, I kept seeing things and hearing things that I couldn't discount. I couldn't logic them away scientifically. What happened happened, and it was certainly a paranormal experience. And I was working in palliative care with the sick and the dying. And one night in particular, I was working with a nurse called Pauline Aitken. And at this particular time we were working on the middle floor, where all the patients in the home were in a vegetative state. So it was impossible for them to be able to get out of bed. But clearly on that night, Pauline felt a hand on her bottom, and I felt a hand on my arm. I could feel the fingers wrap around my arm and tug. I won't say it was a scary experience, but it was a shock. It was definitely a shock. And I know the home had the reputation of being haunted purely because of so many people have passed away in there. But that was my first experience there, but it wasn't the last. Little later on the same week that I had been touched, I noticed in the Huddersfield Examiner that there was to be a ghost hunt, a paranormal investigation in a pub in Murfield. And I thought, I'm going to go along to that. So I contacted them via email, and the group that was doing the investigation were called UK Haunted. They looked a very professional outfit, very similar to most haunted, I suppose. And that particular night I believe about 60 people turned up for that investigation. And it was very interesting. And everybody there, including myself, actually saw a ghost. And his name, according to the medium there, was called Arthur. There was a figure sat in one of the long saddles. And you could see this figure quite clearly. And the medium asked him to stand up and walk towards us, and he actually did stand and begin to walk, but as he walked towards the group he just evaporated into thin air. Now that's not just my recollections, that is everybody who were there. We all saw that particular figure. There was quite a funny incident there that night. The group were in the ladies' toilets, and the medium called out and said, "If there's anybody there, can you please make a noise?" And what you've got to remember is that it was total silence. Everybody is waiting for this knock from the ghost, a voice from the spirit world, when in reality what they got was an air freshener going tss, and at that noise there was a stampede to get out of the toilets, which I found very amusing. And still do to this day. But it just goes to show that your mind is programming itself to receive these messages So you just react and fight or flight, and that's the one. I was quite disappointed overall with the group, UK Haunted, because there seemed to be too many things which were pre-arranged, pre-organised. In particular, one lad who was constantly becoming possessed. It was just a joke, to be fair. A bit like Derek Accorder on Most Haunted. Silly really. I've always said we should keep it real, and keep it real is what we should do. I carried on contemplating and thinking about the afterlife, and I thought, you know what, I don't want to pay any more to go on any ghost hunt with a group. I would like to join a group. So I started scouring through the internet looking for a group who were looking for members to join. And I saw one which was the Haunted Yorkshire research group. I thought, I'll give them a go. So I emailed them, and I got a lovely reply back from a lady called Dawn, and we arranged to meet up in Junction 32 near Pontefract. We got there, we introduced ourselves to each other. She asked me, was I a medium? And I said, I've always fought shy of the name medium. More of a, I would like to call myself more of a sensitive. More that I am aware of what is going on around me. More aware that there is also the spirit realm here. It's all around us. Just here in front of this camera now, there is the spirit realm. And just because we can't see it doesn't mean to say that it isn't there. Anyway, Dawn agreed to take me on the group, and there was to be a ghost hunt arranged in the not too distant future. Dawn contacted me and she said, we've got an investigation coming up, and I would like to meet you again at Junction 32 in the car park, where we will give you the postcode of the building we're going to investigate. I found this a really good idea because it didn't give anyone who was a player the chance to research on the internet the building that they were going to, which makes a lot of sense to me, because anybody can go on the internet now and find out most things. Anyhow, we met in the car park, were given the postcode, and within 10 minutes we were in the building, which was the Red Lion pub on Market Street in Pontefract. We were greeted by the young landlord called Toby, and he told us quite a lot about the building, and to be fair, the building was quite a shock, like a TARDIS. You go into the bar area, which just looked like a normal pub, but beyond, I believe there was 30 bedrooms and a huge ballroom. And within this ballroom it had a huge domed stained glass ceiling, beautiful parquet flooring, an absolutely stunning room. But sadly it had fallen in disrepair over the years. There were dead pigeons here, there and everywhere. And Toby told us that when he first taken over the pub, he had found a room on the first floor which had been nailed up. The door had been nailed shut. He had taken all the nails out, but then became very afraid to enter. A sense of foreboding, ill ease. Myself, now working as a sensitive stroke medium, along with another medium called Tracy, went into the room, and all that was in the room was a wardrobe. The ambient temperature in the room was just the same as any other room in the building. But when we opened the wardrobe, a shot of breeze hit us, so cold, it was freezing, and Dawn took a digital thermometer, fired it into the back of the wardrobe, and it dropped instantly to -9. And that was very, very cold. Tracy and I got together and we were meditating and thinking, and we both saw a little girl who I believe, if I remember rightly, the name was Charlotte. She was wearing a gingham pinafore dress and she had quite long curly hair. I would put her 9-10 years old, something like that. She was singing nursery rhymes. And through talking to this spirit person, we discovered that the wardrobe is where she had been locked so many times by her father, who was quite abusive towards her, both physically and mentally. And she just hated that wardrobe being closed. She wanted the doors open all the time because it just reminded her the terror of all those years gone by. Everybody in the room felt cold. Several of the other investigators began feeling sick, out of balance, unbalanced. It was a very strange experience, and the little girl kind of just vanished into the ether. We progressed around the building, taking photographs, etc., etc. There were plenty of orbs, but, you know, the story with orbs, they're either moisture, insects, camera refractions. There are some, I assume, which are genuine sentient energy, but that one's still in the balance for me personally at the moment. As we progressed through the building, we realised that due to its vast size, it simply wouldn't be possible to investigate it all in one night, and we agreed that we would come back at a later date to finish the investigation off. But before we did, we went up onto the 3rd floor, I believe, and I was drawn towards room 28. And as we would open the door to go down this corridor where there were like 6 bedrooms towards room 28, I could see quite clearly a clergyman pacing up and down. He's very angry, saying, "Who do they think they are? Do they not know who I am?" And he was so furious with things. And after going into a state of meditation again, it came to me that this guy, this clergyman, the man of the cloth, had been involved in organising abortions for young girls back in the day with a doctor of ill repute too. They were doing it for money, in order for their silence to be kept towards the girls' families. And from what I remember, he did actually help in the abortions of quite a few people. He was caught out by the church and he was excommunicated, yet his angry spirit still remains, and room 28 is the very room where the abortions were carried out. I know this because, according to Toby, this was verified by a local Pontefract historian shortly after our first investigation, which makes me know that I was right and it wasn't just fanciful thoughts of my imagination. If anybody's interested in that investigation, there is a book here. I don't know if you can see it. It's called Paranormal West Yorkshire, and it's written by the Halifax author Andy Owens. In this book, Andy actually covers both the investigations that Haunted Yorkshire did within the Red Lion pub. Very interesting book, and Andy does quite a lot on the paranormal. So, that's the end for this video, and just food for thought. I'm interested to know what other people think of the paranormal, mediumship, clairvoyance. What are anybody's personal opinions and thoughts? I would love to know. It's a very vast subject and it's fascinating. We will cover the investigation 2 of the Red Lion in the very next video. And I thank you once again for watching me, listening to my memories, and I hope you've enjoyed what you've heard. Thank you. Peace.